Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Deep Take. I'm here with a special guest. Her name is Tasia Macaraeg, and she is a pleasure activist, a cannabis meditation guide, and a sex and pleasure coach. So we're going to get steamy. We're going to dive in. We're going to talk about pleasure, all the things. So I'm super excited.
Me too. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So let's dive in. I know that, when you look deep into your story and, the art that you put out and the videos and the photos and, you know, you share a little bit of your story across all platforms, really. And pleasure is a really big part of the message and it's just like the purpose that you try to communicate to people that are listening in
Yeah.
or even viewing. And so I want to kind of dive into pleasure itself, like that word. Like, can you kind of describe to me what that means to you, and why is it so important?
Yes. So pleasure for me is, well, there's a quote by Lord that I really love, and I feel like it encapsulates what pleasure means to me. And it's about the erotic, and really understanding those intimate, um, satisfactory parts of yourself and then doing more of it. And that's really what pleasure is. It's feeling into your body and understanding, knowing the sensations, and then doing them more so that we can live from this place of alignment. Really, it's about trusting your body. So often we're shut off to our bodies and we're numb and we're producing and maximizing that we can't really feel what's happening. We ignore it. Even when we have to go to the bathroom, at first it's let me just finish this email, instead of listening to our bodies, trusting our bodies. And so really pleasure for me is feeling sensation and honoring it, trusting it, and doing it more.
Wow, yeah, that is a really great point. Just the fact that you would share that example of, yeah, when you have to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. Don't finish the email. Like your body is communicating something to you and you want to listen to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so many of us kind of maybe repress that feeling or think that, oh, it's not that important, it can wait. But really, that's your vessel, it's your shell that's taking care of you. So
Yeah.
and that's fascinating. Like, where do you think where do you think we begin with that, with trying to feel more comfortable, like while listening to our bodies a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say this is on all of my platforms, that safety is first. Safety is before pleasure. Pleasure will just happen naturally when you feel safe in your body. Not necessarily talking about like, a tiger is chasing after you. I need to feel safe. Safe as in my nervous system is calm. I am not being triggered. And I feel safe to be in my body. I feel safe to be myself. I feel safe to be as much as I want, to ask for what I need. And so when you're in that place of relaxing, your body is relaxed and open, ready to receive, that's when pleasure starts to happen in your body naturally. You can feel sensations that you can't really feel when you're tense and you're in a trauma response. So yeah, first we need to really relax our bodies, let go of those trauma responses, and then that intrigue, that curiosity will just sort of happen.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, it's so interesting that I think so many of us are trying to like relearn how to go back to that practice of just like tuning into your body, allowing yourself to feel safe. Because I mean, me personally, there are so many moments in my life where I feel tense And it's almost like my body is so used to being in that tense trauma like response because of childhood, my upbringing, whatever it may be. And I just realized, like, holy crap, I need to be breathing more, like taking deeper breaths, being more present to like the sensations in my, in my fingers and like my chest and all these different
Mm,
things. So
yeah.
I think that's such a beautiful thing that, you're speaking to the community and to the folks who are really wanting to dive into that and truly are open to it as well, because I think
Yeah.
we really really need that right now. um i think so I think so many of us have like been out of touch from that, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
Mm.
And that's why I love guiding the cannabis meditations, because really when you smoke cannabis, it changes the vibrations, it changes the energy within your container and your vessel. And it sort of illuminates those things that are happening in your head. And so really, if we can be with those things and relax our body, we I think a lot of us are always trying to like, oh, I'm triggered, I'm gonna push that away, or I'm not going to honor or acknowledge like why I'm triggered and where it comes from. And I always say like, I have to hug that little girl inside of me who um, helped me to survive, protected me. And then after that acknowledgement, really understanding that awareness of like, I'm in a trigger and I'm okay. Can I relax and retrain the nervous system to not fire these feelings in your body, these sensations in your body when you have a memory?
Yeah, yeah, that's really fascinating. Can you kind of talk to me a little bit more about what these cannabis meditations look like the process behind it, like, step by step? You're in a room, you're with the person, like how, like what exactly does that look like?
Absolutely. Um, so I first describe the energy of cannabis and the energy in our own bodies and what to expect throughout the meditation. Cannabis can trigger a lot of emotions and a lot can come up. And so, like I was saying, you want to relax the body and allow it to, do whatever it's going to do. Sometimes we're emotional and there's sobbing, or sometimes there's shaking, and just allowing that and reassuring people that you're safe, you're in a safe space, and it's okay to just allow your body to purge and to go through whatever it needs to go through. And then we do some breath work before we introduce cannabis, just so we can feel what's going on, feel our space. And I'll bless medicine. A lot of people don't necessarily resonate with, the words God and blessing. And so I encourage people to, um, cross out and insert here whatever works for them. Um, and then we go through a body meditation after we consume together, just to really become aware of how our bodies are shifting as we're consuming, where we feel it first. What does it feel like? Is it tingly? Does it feel like heat or pressure? And so we're going through that body scan, and then I'll take you through different meditations, but it might be a chakra meditation to unblock chakras to allow energy to flow, or the energy of love, really understanding what it is to dissolve the body and know true love, unconditional love, real love. And then I sort of bring you back into your space after this experience. Some people have a spiritual experience, some people fall asleep, and it's all good. It's all okay. Yeah, bring you back to your space, and then we do a soft close. And that's a cannabis meditation.
Oh, that's so badass. I love that. I mean, I don't think I've ever spoken to someone that has done that before, so it's like really cool to see, sort of what that process looks like. Now I'm curious. When did it click in your body and in your mind that, okay, cannabis, that will, fit perfectly with what I'm trying to, to do to heal, will help people heal and tune into those sensations in the body. Like when did that click in your head?
Yeah. Well, I've previous to learning how to guide cannabis meditations, I was meditating with cannabis just without really understanding or knowing it. You journal and you listen to music and you find yourself in this flow. And so when I started doing it in this container, in this structure of a spiritual guide bringing you through this experience, I actually had this really profound vision where I met God and had a spiritual reawakening, and really, really like fully embodied what it is to be safe, and not only be safe, but to feel one, and to really be this unified piece of the universe. I'm getting very spiritual,
I
woo
love
woo.
it. I love
But from that experience, you really understand that this physical body, the trauma, the pain, um, it you can dissolve it once you get past this threshold of knowing love. And really, you can't dissolve the body and experience that until you've run up against the nervous system time and time again. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this just in a regular meditation, but you're like meditating and then you like I I don't know, like
Eyes
who's at the
open.
door,
Yeah.
or yeah, or like you're going through the list of things that you have to do because you're stressed. And so if we can really, like I said, meet it, and then calm it, we're retraining our nervous system to not respond, or to not react, but to respond. And cannabis really illuminates those things that we have to meet. So I really believe that healing is not getting over something, but going through something and going through the body to find that healing.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I really resonate. And when you bring this up, I think about the last experience that I had with cannabis, which was not that long ago, maybe like 2 months ago. This was
Mm.
before I left Vegas. And it was exactly what you're kind of talking about. It was like me alone in this room, you know, having experienced cannabis. And all of the emotions kind of came to the surface. I felt sort of scared, you
Mm.
know, and I was like trying to dive into that. And I was like, okay, Maya, there's got to be a reason why that you're feeling all of these emotions. Um, you know, and you're feeling all of them. You're feeling sad, you're feeling joy, you're feeling anxious, but there's a reason why it's coming up. So when you're describing that, I'm like, wow, that's exactly the experience that I had recently with it. And I think for a while I was like super resistant around it. I was like, no, I shouldn't be feeling these things while, using cannabis. Like, this is not a good thing. But then I was like, but maybe these are things that need to be met right now in this moment. So I think that is so wonderful. Now it makes sense to me why, you know, like it's like a tool almost, like you're utilizing it to um like help people open up and like have those certain emotions come up and for them to meet those things. Is that sort of what it is? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And really, it's about trusting the body, and really understanding that the body knows what it needs to heal. And the body knows what, perhaps you need to look at. And so it's really, if we can kind of reframe there, it's a gift that my body is bringing this up so that I can acknowledge it, and say hi to it and say, I honor you, and I don't need you to show up right now, and making those choices, but really like relaxing the body, trusting the body, and letting it be. And in that practice, because cannabis meditation really is a tool, I believe, and so as you continue to practice, you jump into that relaxation a lot faster. You're not always bumping up against your nervous system, against your triggers and your trauma responses. Eventually, you'll really learn how to soften and receive.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah,
I'm
I love it
inspired.
too.
I want to do one soon.
Well, yeah, this Wednesday.
Do it. Yeah, I'm so intrigued. I am so intrigued. So now that we're talking about, cannabis meditation, the work that you do, how you're a guide, what you do for the community, I want to dive into, who you are and what your story is, and sort of what brought you to this work, because, it's beautiful. It's extremely beautiful what you do, and I'm sure that you've had your process,
Yeah.
going through your own sensations and your own emotions, and I'm sure you're going through it still. But where does it begin? What brought you here?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was young, actually, I experienced sexual trauma, and so as you can imagine, that really affects how you feel in your body without knowing it. Really affecting my ability to feel love and to be accepting of my body. And then I grew up in a conservative Catholic household, and there was a lot of conditioning around not having sex until marriage, and what would happen to you if you had sex before marriage. And so even subconsciously, I'm holding on to that shame. And when I was 18, my dad passed, and I sort of went into this rebellion against religion and had to go through this process of finding my body, loving my body, understanding my body. And at first, it doesn't look so cute. I thought that I was sexually liberated when I was in my young 20s, but it didn't really happen until I actually found kink and was able to heal in these containers where there were set boundaries and hard limits and space to be anyone you wanted, and really find spaces where your body is loved and accepted. And kink was a wonderful healing experience for me as well. And from that point, just really learning how to not be ashamed of whatever it is you like, and also understanding that pain is a part of life, and it can actually be pleasurable. Not everything in life is I don't know, sunshines and rainbows, and you know that. But sometimes pain is the way that we get through things, and that's okay too.
Yeah, totally. Wow, what a crazy journey. I mean, you're 18 and your father passes away, right? And it kind of like throws you into this like massive self-healing, self-discovery journey. And then you said that you started experimenting with kink. Is that
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really know exactly what you mean when you say kink. So, can you kind of describe to me like what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely, I can.
Get into it.
Yeah, so I really started with some BDSM Dom sub play, and really, people assume that the dom is in charge, but the submissive is actually the person who has the control, because they're the ones that have the boundaries. They're the ones that say what can and cannot happen in the container. And so within, a play session, you play with, at least from my experience, restraints and rope and clamps and toys and whips and all of the fun things, names, exhibitionism, adding people, and in that sexual liberation, I kind of think that like everyone has a little bit of an inner slut. Everybody's a little bit of a slut, and if they're not, they want to be a little bit more of a slut. And really, sexual power is our birthright, and pleasure is our birthright. And society tells us that we can't be this thing, especially for, women. We are not allowed to express our sexuality. And I really think that that's because a long time ago, the patriarchy saw the power in it. And so allowing yourself to just let go and surrender and experience all of these sensations. And also it brings up emotions that can actually be really healing. Almost like exposure therapy.
Huh. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, oh my God, I'm so curious. My mind is like going all these different places and questions.
Yeah.
So, when you were experiencing kink, right? Can you kind of like describe to me maybe a moment in time where you were doing that and like an emotion came up and you were like, whoa, I didn't know that existed in me. Let me explore that. Or like, whoa, I didn't know that was in me. Like, that's intense and crazy. And like, I don't know how to like approach that. Do you have like
Yeah.
any examples of that?
Um, yeah, I do have not a specific example, but when I first started, I was not good at boundaries, and I was not good at asking for what I needed and wanted. And I had to really go through the process of learning my body. But when you are not great at boundaries, not great at saying no to things that kind of make you uncomfortable, or things that don't like really feel good and you don't want it anymore, really learning how to fine tune your boundaries was really important for me, and understanding like, why don't I have boundaries? Where does that come from? Why do I want people to push my boundaries? Why do I, want to be punished? And yeah, and so it's sort of this reflective thing, and it's okay to explore.
Wow, that is so freaking fascinating. So when I'm just curious, like
Yeah.
these questions are coming up, like what are some of the is it do you come up with any answers, or is it just all exploration? Like, did you come up with any answers for those questions that came up at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. And it really goes back to childhood trauma. And it kind of comes full circle. It's this, I would say that kink is as much of a healing modality, for me at least, as cannabis meditation was. You are exploring your body, meeting these feelings that come up, meeting these sensations that are attached to a memory, and um, really, you don't really have a choice but to see them and go through them. And so it really causes awareness. You just become really aware of your trauma responses. You become really aware of why you're having the trauma response. And once you have that awareness, you're really gaining a lot of power, because you have the choice to say, I don't actually need that right now. I can choose something different. I can choose to get what I need, or I can choose something else. Or I can choose to just not have shame around it. Like, yeah, it happened, and this is me, and I don't I don't fucking care who's judging. I hope I'm allowed to. I hope I'm allowed to curse. Sorry.
I curse like a fucking sailor. You can
Okay, great.
whatever you want on this freaking fucking show.
Fuck yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So just that awareness really gives us the power back. And from awareness, we can explore. I think we can get curious about what it is we want and need.
Wow, it's so funny. Like every time you bring up anything that you say, something always like a personal image comes to my mind of like something that I experienced.
Yeah.
Right? So like I'm just going to put this out there. I don't know if I'm going to regret this or not, but recently, no, maybe not recently, before the pandemic, I like got involved with this like whole sugar daddy situation.
Yes.
And I wanted to experiment. Like I kind of went into it like a reporter. Like I really just wanted to like go in, see like how these women feel when they're in these situations, right? Like I just wanted to know what the process was. I was so vastly curious. So I went the first time and like I met up with this guy, older man, and it was, it was cool. It was very interesting. We did the whole shebang, right? And I felt fine. But then the second time, there was some like things were like weird stuff was being communicated, and it was almost like the boundaries had been crossed in my book because I suddenly felt really uncomfortable and then just extremely shameful after that. And like when you're bringing up shame, like I'm thinking back to that time in my life, and I think for a while it took me quite some time to like sort of understand in my brain and in my like body that it was okay for me to experiment with something like that. It was okay to like have sex with an older man. It was okay to be curious, and to like sort of be in this like more submissive role in that situation. But for a while my body was like, and like I grew up Catholic, I'm Filipino. I have all of this like shame, subconscious shame around like sex and pleasure and all these things. So for a while it just took me some time to like really, really understand like, Maya, it's totally okay that you did that. Like you don't have to beat yourself up for it. Like it's not, you don't have to feel like a terrible person for exploring your body and being curious about it too.
Yeah.
So like as soon as you brought up shame, that's what came up for me in my body. I was like, whoa, yeah. I remember at that time when I was really like stuck on trying to figure out why I felt so much shame around it. And like trying to liberate myself too. Like it's okay. Like all of it is okay. You can still experiment and still have your power, you know?
Yeah. Well, what I would say is, first of all, boundaries can always change. They are not a hard set in stone thing. And so if you're really feeling like you don't feel safe in your body, that's cool. You can just change your boundaries. And then going back to that shame piece, like, yeah, all of us have it. It's been conditioned and beat into us since we were very young. And, I would say, especially as, cis women, it's like from kindergarten, like before kindergarten, we get these messages from society that we are not allowed to be all these things. But it is human to be curious, to be sexually curious, to want to explore with a lot of different people, and to do things that are maybe a little bit taboo. And so, yeah, I mean, those things can be fun and playful, and really understanding that shame is conditioning. And, you know, shame is not I did something bad. Shame is I am bad.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
deep. Yeah.
it's so deep. It's so deep. It's really like interwoven into all of the things that we end up doing. And really understanding like, where did that come from? Yeah, it comes from our family. Yeah, it comes from, you know, religion, but it also just comes from society. So it's going to take a while to unravel that. And it took a while to create, you know, the full impact of shame. And so it's, for me, I really think that it's just like approval of allowing yourself to feel shame. Because we're like, oh, I feel shame. And then I'm just going to put it in this corner and try and ignore it and go do something else and maybe self sabotage or dissociate. And so, can we just say, I'm feeling shame right now? That's interesting. Where is that coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a practice, right? Like, and nobody will ever be completely rid of their shame. It's human.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shame is definitely, a universal feeling that, yeah, so many of us have to kind of like be curious about and go through and heal and all that. I mean, so to kind of like transition, we kind of talked about your process and what that looks like and experimenting with kink and just exploring that a little bit. I kind of want to dive into a little bit more into the process itself. Like for for a lot of us who have those layers of like societal shame and religion and family and all these different things, like how do we begin to heal and go through those things? I mean, yes, it's the awareness and like just being curious about it, but like for you, what did that look like? Like how did you begin? And sort of like in detail, like what did that process, like how did it unfold?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it starts with like, all of us feel pain from that shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading something, I think last week, and there was this guru who was talking to a woman, and she was like, I just don't understand. I keep finding myself in the same positions that are like ruining my life. And the guru responded that she hadn't reached her pain limit. She hadn't felt enough pain. And it gets to this point where you're like, oh, it's such a feeling that you need to shift. And so for me, when I was finally feeling that feeling, it was a craving for healing. It was a craving to know myself. And yeah, I mean, it starts with I mean, maybe not for everyone, but hating your body or just like being mad at yourself or um, just like being angry about every single piece of who you are because you feel like you didn't choose it. And slowly, at least for me, like I went through therapy for years and did yoga and meditation and, really dove into like spiritual experiences, plant medicine. Um, and really I think where it alchemized was finding safety in the body and then feeling pleasure, understanding that like pleasure is my birthright and it's happening. And so for people who are just starting this healing process, um, yeah, approaching your pain. Um, and also, like I said, doing more of those little things that bring you pleasure. And some days, especially for people who are facing anxiety or depression, some days it's really hard to to get through all of these trauma responses because you're constantly triggered. And so pleasure is this piece that can really save you. In that, this morning I woke up and I showered, I brushed my teeth, I washed my face. I feel good. Some days I don't do that because I'm sad. And so celebrating those small wins and doing them more. Setting spaces, that's really important for me, like making sure that whatever space I'm in feels kind of indulgent, like feels pleasurable. There are plants and flowers on my desk, and I do essential oils, and it seems maybe not silly, but that those little pieces of care that you're giving yourself, those little pieces of love, they start to pack onto each other, and then you reach a point where you're ready to accept the healing journey, because you've gotten yourself out of this place of like, I can't see anything but my trauma and pain.
Yeah, wow.
I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that you shared that example of just like, having flowers near your desk, or just like having these little things that kind of bring you joy and pleasure, it makes a huge difference, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like this big all thing. It could be just like the small things. Yeah.
I talk a lot about self-pleasure. And I think when people hear self-pleasure, they think of masturbation.
Those are
But
my five
self-pleasure, yeah, right. And it can be, touching the genitals. But when we think of self-pleasure, we think of climax, and we're like trying to get to this, ending. But really, like, luxuriating in what it feels like to lightly touch up your arm and giving yourself these sensations that feel good, like allowing yourself to do what you need in your body to feel good. Maybe it's like, maybe a lot of us are like ashamed to spank ourselves, but maybe that's what we need to give ourselves, as a little moment of like, whew, I'm here, I'm ready to go. Yeah, and really, like, self-pleasure, I'm saying this a lot, but like really feeling into those tiny sensations in your body. Like maybe it's stretching, maybe it's like giving your feet a massage, maybe it's, really embracing your face. We don't embrace our face. Like, we expect other people to like touch us sensually, but can we give that to ourselves? Can we love ourselves enough to feel good, to allow ourselves to feel good? And they can be small.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And so when we start to give, those moments to ourselves, like, could be anything, the flowers, the light touching, the dancing, like basically anything that gives us pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
How how does that like communicate in like the real world? Like what starts to change in our outside worlds?
Yeah. So there's a lot of, at least as it pertains to like pleasure and sexual pleasure, there's so much power in being sexually liberated. And going back to that, like, you know how to ask for what you need and what you want. You know how to say no, which is really huge. And it's not even like no to these, big things. It's like, no, I don't want to go to that. I would rather stay at home. I don't want to go to this event. I would rather stay at home. Or, making adjustments in your life. We get down on ourselves for like maybe not completing our whole list, but that's not what my body needs to rush through the day and get through all of these tasks. Like, my body needs to rest, um, and that's what it needs to feel good. So just going back to like that trust in your body really translates to outside in the world, and really regaining that power to do you, you know, protect you first, to make yourself the priority. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love, again, I love the example that you shared, um, when you said that you were experimenting with kink. Like something in my brain clicked there. I was like, you're absolutely right. In those sexual experiences, you're learning where your boundaries are, where they're not, um,
Mhm.
what capacity you have for certain, you know, things or emotions, or what emotions will arise, and what you need to meet, all those things. And now I
Mhm.
think I'm gonna have my own little kink session
Oh my
soon.
God, please do. Yes, please do. Please do.
Yeah, yeah, that's super fascinating. Okay,
Yeah.
so my next question for you is, how do you think sex and desire are all linked to like creating things in our life, or like this idea of creation in
Yeah.
individuals' lives?
Yeah. Um, when you're filled up, when you feel that sexual liberation, that sexual power, when you want more of it, you're really in this vibration of creation. And when you think about it, our genitals are the root of creation. They are, you know, the portal. And so when we're fulfilled in that space, when we're full in that space, we're vibrating on this creation sort of frequency. Um, and it's really about like living your life, creating things just because it feels good, just because you want to do it. Um, you're in this creative flow. Um, yeah, so I think that yeah, sorry, you're just creating from a place of pleasure and wanting more of it, and what you're able to manifest when you're in that spiritual alignment, um, because your body knows what feels good. And when you have a desire, sometimes they can be destructive. Sometimes they kind of blow shit up, but honoring that desire, that your body's telling you something, and that by listening to your body, you're putting yourself in this alignment of creation.
Yeah, that's pretty badass. Like this whole time, I'm like, oh my god, I, I'm, I think I would say that I have a pretty like high sex drive, like,
Mm,
or like maybe, like I'd like to think that I'm pretty open to pleasure. I'm not,
yeah.
I'm not open all the time, because I have all these like, the societal layer, the religious layer, family layer, all that stuff.
And you don't have to bypass all of those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I love hearing about people being sexually liberated, and not being ashamed of it. So thank you for sharing that with me, because it's not something that we own so often.
Yes, and I mean that's another conversation in itself. Like, I mean, yeah, just how do we begin to feel comfortable in that, to feel okay when there's just so many layers, you know? Is it
Yeah.
is it simply just being curious to it, or being open and accepting of it? I'm sure for some people it's like pretty ingrained in them that they shouldn't be doing these things, or having sex, or feeling good when you do it, and all of
Hmm.
that. It's just
Hmm.
sort of complicated sometimes.
Yeah, it is so complicated, and it's really not it's really not easy. There's so much pain in healing, and we feel so much pain when we feel ashamed. We feel pain when there are a lot of us that feel pain when we go to have a sexual experience because we have experienced sexual trauma. And so, really, the process is like approval and being soft. It's okay to feel pain and shame. And can you just love yourself there? Um, yeah, and it's really incremental. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. I think you and I are both feeling like very chill and relaxed. Like I'm in the sun right now, you know, I'm
Yeah.
outside. I'm like around a bunch of flowers. There's a water like fountain just like
Mm,
doing its thing. Like it's
I
all
know.
yeah, it's just, you know, it's a Saturday. Today's Saturday, right? Yeah, it's it's a Saturday. um yeah, so
We're in pleasure this morning.
I think so too. I'm just super relaxed. So
Yeah.
I keep forgetting, you know, everything that I want to ask you because, yeah, we're just exploring.
Let's do it. Let's jump around.
Okay, let's see what we got here. Um, yeah, I want to sort of dive in more, you know, into your journey itself, right? Just, you know, I had asked you like, what brought you here? What brought you to this work? I mean, and what you had described, it seemed like it was a pretty crazy time for you. I mean,
Mhm.
your father had just passed, and you said that you had experienced some sexual trauma.
Mhm.
Um, can you kind of walk me through, you know, what that looked like for you? Like what
Yeah.
emotions you were feeling and
Yeah.
how you processed it all?
Yeah. Um, God, I hated my body so much. And it's even uncomfortable to say, but like acknowledging that that's a real feeling that people go through. Like I couldn't look in the mirror for weeks at a time because I just like would be so ashamed. And that hate for my body, that shame for my body really spiraled into like, why am I here? Like, who will ever love me? What is the point? And yeah, just really having such a huge desire to not feel like that anymore. It got to a place of like, um, it is survival for me to explore healing modalities that are going to work for me. And it's for me it was a really really slow process. You have, I think, fake self-love where it's you're presenting self-love because you don't want people to see your vulnerability and to see that you're sad. And yeah, so sorry, we're self-presenting. Um, and for me, I was just I was just sick of being fake, and I was sick of feeling that pain. And because I had always been this sensual person, um, I've always known that I had power in my sexuality, and that I would be creating from that space. And so I really I got a taste of it. I got a taste of what it's like to live your life from a place of pleasure. And I was like, this is it. This is already my power. And now I'm choosing to step into it. Um, and maybe not everybody feels as strongly about their sexuality being their source of power. I think that we all have a lot of power in our sexuality, but maybe that's not where you feel like you get all of your power. Um,
Okay. We're feeling good. We're feeling good. We're relaxed.
I just keep losing my train of thought. Look at me being human.
Yeah,
Um,
it's okay. Me too. Yeah, this whole
yeah.
day I've been stumbling on my words. I've, been super.
And
So.
I think like just seeing myself here and kind of acknowledging a trigger, like I always want to be perfect and I always want to say the right thing. And where does that come from? And can I just let go of it and be human? I'm like a little bit nervous, and that's kind of exciting. And it also like, yeah, I want to say the right thing. I want to communicate to people really what I'm trying to share. Um, and and really turning off that human piece. But I'm here. We're doing it. We're living life.
Yeah, it's messy. It's all over the place,
It's messy.
and I totally get it. Yeah, I I have that perfection thing too. There's moments where I'm like, everything needs to be perfect. The introduction has to be great, and like all the
Mhm.
things. But I'm like, I feel super spacey this Saturday morning. Like we had a lot of technological hiccups, but we're here and we're human. And
Yeah.
honestly, thank you for sharing that. Sharing that, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very honest. It's nice.
I mean, we spend so much time pretending like these things aren't happening to us, pretending like we are not human, that the world around us starts to treat us like we're not human. And we see this, a lot in corporations, and a lot in the workforce. And it's like, at what point can we just like demand our humanness, and protect our humanness, because that's first. And I think that that's really important as we move forward, into this post-COVID life. Like, what are we really going to value as a collective, and how are we going to grow in our humanity, evolve in our humanity? And I think that we make that choice. And I really think so many people over COVID did get to, I mean, we experienced a lot of pain, absolutely, but there was a lot of self-discovery. And there was a lot of pleasure in like doing nothing. We don't let ourselves just fucking do nothing, because it's always shame. We're ashamed of doing nothing because we feel like we're lazy, or like we're not making enough money. But it's so, so important. It's like fuel. Pleasure is like fuel. We can't, like, life sucks if we're just going through the cog in the machine.
What's the
And
point of
we have
that?
to be able,
What's
oh God. Um, and I mean, especially when you think about these systems that were purposefully created to bring people down, reclaiming our pleasure, reclaiming our boundaries and our needs, um, for me, like, might just save humanity.
Yeah.
Such a big statement, but I said
Yeah.
it.
Be bold. Be bold, Tasha. We need it. That's
Yes.
and I believe it too. I think the reason why I was so intrigued by your work, is because I believe that it begins there. It begins with the body. It begins with tuning into those sensations that we've so long have repressed or ignored. And it seems it's like such a simple thing, right? Like we really just have to be curious about it. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to get it right every single time either.
No. No, because we won't.
Yeah.
We won't. So let's just accept that now and get it out of the way because we won't be perfect. We make so many mistakes. That's cool. We can do that. That's how we learn and find the things that we like is we fuck up until we find it. Um, yeah, I was working in politics for the last 4 years as I was sort of on this self-discovery path. And I really got this feeling like, oh my God, there's so much work to be done. There's so much suffering in the world. I'm working my ass off to see this very, very small change or to be disappointed because politicians don't follow through. And yeah, I really started to look within on the impact that I'm making on a daily basis by just loving myself where I'm at, healing myself. Like when you heal yourself, it is such a gift to the people around you, and your capacity for love and your ability to contribute to the collective. And so it really is this point, you know, pleasure feels good, but pleasure is also survival.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is survival. It's like food, or maybe not food, maybe not, because I've heard some stories where people aren't eating food and they're just drinking water and they're perfectly fine. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
That's that's a different conversation in itself.
Well, I love food. I get a lot of pleasure out of food. I was eating a slice of watermelon like last week, and I just kind of busted out into laughter, and it took me in this unexpected surprise, but like I was smelling the watermelon as it was going into my mouth, and then that like slurping so it doesn't drip all over your face. I was like, this is sexual, but it also kind of reminds me of like when I was a kid and just like being messy and not worrying about like, is this sound inappropriate for me to make when I'm eating a watermelon? I don't know. And it also brought me back to like, God, I'm so grateful for what the earth provides for us. I feel connected to like ancestors and you know, the agriculture that really allowed us to experience this watermelon. And like, can you really fall into the joy of a watermelon if you aren't first open to receiving pleasure, to knowing your body, maybe not even knowing your body, but like feeling enough in your body that you can feel sensation. Um,
That's so cool. I love that example. I'm like already picturing you like slurping the watermelon in the sun. Maybe I don't know if you're in the sun or not, but you're having this like crazy outer body experience where you're thinking about your ancestors and the whole process. Yeah,
and
I
then I was just laughing because like fuck, when did eating a slice of watermelon become this like profound spiritual existential transcendence? Like I'm eating watermelon and just being like, what is going on? But I love it. Like I'm happy there. It feels good to enjoy watermelon.
totally. I love it. Okay, so that brings up my next question. Tasha, what brings you pleasure? What are some things that bring you motherfucking pleasure?
Oh, Jesus. How much longer do we have? Um, so much. So dancing is a huge one. I host a dance space for other people, and I also have a daily practice of dance. And I am in an ecstatic dance container where I really get to like be messy and listen to my body and move in whatever way it's telling me to. And once you get out all of the like judgment in your body because you're just tired and moving and it's weird and silly and it feels good. I really met spirit. This is who I am when you're past that threshold. Okay, so I love to dance. It's a very big part of my pleasure. Sensual movement is such a huge part of my pleasure. I really like soft touch on my body, but I also like the kinky shit. And so, yeah, I love that. But I also like, it's everything. It's a pleasure is like I don't know, a space that you're in, like a mindset that you're in, and just really enjoying like food and really enjoying like nature and really being able to like indulge in a conversation and be with a person and connect with a person. I get so much pleasure. I'm a very social person, and so I get so much pleasure like connecting with people and being social. Um, I love getting dressed up and going to fancy dinners and treating myself in that space. Um, I love new sexual experiences, ones that are, yeah, just like new sexual experiences and spaces where we get to explore and play and learn more about our bodies. Um, Yeah.
I love that.
There's a lot.
So you giggled there. Was there maybe an example that you had that came up, or you just like you laugh because you're like, yeah, there's a lot that brings me pleasure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. I mean, let's go there. Let's do it. I when I first sort of got into the kink scene, I really discovered exhibitionism and people watching you engage in, whatever sexual experience that you're having. And it's really hot being able to pleasure other people. And like, it's also this letting go of like body shame. Like I am here to be seen, and this is actually so hot. um and I was surprised by that, because I had been in such a place of like, ugh, my body, I don't feel good in my body, or nobody is turned on by my body. And so exhibitionism was really surprising for me. And yeah, just I had a lot of shame around that too at first. I was like, woke up the next morning like, oh my God, who am I? What did I just do? And allowing myself to go back to the pleasure, like, no, that was kinky hot shit and I love it and I want to do it again. Um, yeah, but it's even like I had this experience on Sunday where I wasn't feeling like being kinky, and I really wanted to be sensual, and I really wanted like connection and intimacy. And I think it can be hard for well, it can be hard for people, depending on who you are, to receive intimacy. And it can be hard for people to trust that intimacy, if you give intimacy, that it'll be received well. And so I asked for it before I even allowed this person into my space. I'm feeling like I really want connection, and I want to do like a lot of making out, and I want to take it slow, and I want a lot of touch, and I want it to be passionate. I don't really want you to call me a dirty little slut right now. I don't really want you to boss me around. Like, I want you to be in this sensual experience with me. And being able to know that that's what I wanted, and then like just being straight up and asking for it, and even making adjustments in sex, like, no, that doesn't feel good, let's try something else, I have an idea. And it's playful and creative. And so yeah,
I love
yes.
it. I'm so turned on right now. I
Right.
love it.
Yes.
That is so cool. Okay. Um, okay, so I guess my next question for you is, yeah, how do we begin to heal? What do we do? How do we begin to heal? I mean, I know we had talked about how sexual healing could be, I mean, just healing for the collective. And it might honestly be something that we really need right now, given the isolation, the repression, and all of that. So, how do we begin? What do we do?
Um, I think that the very first step is having, um, having enough bravery to just be with yourself, and to feel it and to acknowledge your pain and not ignore it or push it away, and to make it okay. Like we all have been conditioned into painful places, painful dark corners in our bodies and in our lives. So giving yourself so much approval, for the shame and the pain. And then I would say it's like, um, obviously safety in the body after like meeting that pain. Can I soften? Can I relax? And there are a lot of different modalities. Dance sort of gets you out of your head. Yoga, meditation, sports, nature, hiking, whatever it is, like, can we just get out of our heads and be in our bodies, and experience what it's like to feel safe without this nervous system triggering all of these trauma responses. And that's a practice, and it takes a lot of slow, soft, and really like um, brave movement. And yeah, and then after that, it's really doing the small things that bring you pleasure. They'll add up, and eventually you'll see, like, God, I want more of it. Like, this feels good. I want more of this in my life. And figuring out like small ways that we can bring that into our lives. Like, it doesn't need to be, I'm going to spend an hour to meditate and do yoga and then 15 minutes of dance. Like, what does it look like for us to find pleasure in 2 minutes? Like, how can we, in my seat right now, how can I feel more pleasure before I go into writing this email? And like acknowledging your body, or loving your body enough to give that to yourself, is really like where I think it all starts. I think those are the first steps, and then you get curious and you grow from there. Um, and really, like, as you're growing, in this pleasure space, or following your pleasure, following your desire, you're finding alignment of what it really is that you want to create and contribute to the world. It's not this, what I have to do, it's what I want to do. And I really believe we should all be creating from that space.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. My last and final question for you is, what would you tell your past self, your present self, and then your future self?
Mm. My past self. Oh my God, I just love you so much.
Yeah.
I just love you. Thank you. Forgive me for ignoring you. I'm sorry that I sort of bypassed your needs. And thank you for just like taking care of me. in the way that you could. My present self. You're in alignment. It doesn't need to be hard. Yourself. There is no limit. There is no limit to how much we can create, how much we can contribute. And that everything that has happened was divine and has led you here on purpose.
Well, thank you so much, Tasha. I truly appreciate you and your time, and I feel in pleasure and so relaxed and slightly turned on, which is normal and totally okay. And I'm so digging it. I guess it's just what you do. That's just who you are. You just walk into every space and you somehow inspire pleasure in everyone else around you. So thank you so much. That was so much fun.
I had so much fun, and I'm just receiving that so hard. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yay. Okay. That was Tasha, everyone.